What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Number 12, the Indiana Pacers. Not too much roster turnover. They lost Doug McDermott, lost Jalen Smith, brought in Cole Swider and James Wiseman. So basically trading out a bench wing that won't play and their third string center is basically all they did. So they're more or less running it back with the same roster as last year. But let's take a quick look back at last year because it's a confusing team in the sense that they have these really impressive metrics that also just didn't seem to really amount to anything when it was nut crunching time. So in the regular season, the five-man lineup of Tyrese Haliburton, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, and Miles Turner, their starters. They had 922 possessions, according to Cleaning the Glass, plus 7.5 net rating. That's really good. They were actually very good defensively. They had a 108 defensive rating, and they rebounded really well. They grabbed 75% of their opponent's misses. That's a really good number. In the playoffs, 288 minutes played between those five guys, plus 14.1 net rating, a 129 offensive rating. Those are insane numbers in the large sample. But a couple of concerns popped up. One, their rebounding didn't hold. They gave up an offensive rebound on 31.2% of opponents' misses in the playoffs. That is bad. And then the big one, they got absolutely annihilated in clutch situations. They went 2-5 overall. Their offense got strangled. They went down to a 101 offensive rating when the game was within 5 points with at least 5 minutes left, or with less than 5 minutes left. 101. Think about that. Their offensive rating, I said earlier, was 129 with those five guys in the postseason in the large sample. So they were like really good until it got to the end of games, and then they could not score. And then their defense got thrashed too. For as good as their defense was in the large sample in the regular season, they had a 121 defensive rating in clutch situations in the postseason. And that's really the main reason why I'm lower on the Pacers than most people are. I think their regular season engine is real. Tyrese Haliburton is one of the best large sample offensive engines in the league. Does everything that I want in an offensive engine. Consistently throws kick-ahead passes in transition. Anytime somebody's open up the floor, he's throwing those kick-ahead passes. They're so valuable because defensive transition is always geared looking up the floor, looking back towards the ball handler. When you throw it over their head, they all turn to go identify where the ball is, and that opens up opportunities for trailers. It's also opportunities to attack and slash or get wide open threes before the defense is set. So like those kick-ahead passes are great. And then when he gets into the half court, he's just like an incredible playmaker out of ball screens. If you die on the pick or you duck underneath, he's a deadly pull-up jump shooter. If you die on the pick, but he gets downhill, he's a deadly floater shooter. If you switch the screen, he routinely toasted bigs in ISOs last year. And then he's one of the best passers in those situations that you'll meet. With the early phases when it was Buddy Hield and Miles Turner just picking and popping all season long and him just routinely hitting that guy wide open for a three, or when it was a lot more like traditional ball screens post deadline, he's reading Obi Toppin or Pascal Siakam out of the weak side corner whenever his man steps over to tag the roller. He just routinely made the right read every single time. It generated all these high efficiency shots for all of these players that, like, a lot of these players were mediocre players elsewhere in the league. Boston didn't want Aaron Nesmith. The Knicks had no use for Obi Toppin. These are guys that turned into like legitimate large role contributors for Indiana. Like Tyrese is the master at just getting defenses into rotation so that guys can capitalize on it. Siakam was a really nice fit that juiced him up on both ends of the floor. A lot of upside there. But when things slow down and get stuck in the half court and defenses are more attentive to detail and more physical on the ball and fly around in rotation better, they can struggle. Tyrese Haliburton shot 3 for 15 in clutch situations in the playoffs and had 7 turnovers to his 8 assists. Now, one thing I'll say is I thought that Tyrese, before he hurt his hamstring, had more athletic juice to get separation from elite defenders. And that's the case, right? Tyrese was so good in the clutch before he hurt his hammy. So, like, maybe that translates better at the postseason. But there is a certain amount of that, like, it really looked like they ran into a brick wall when they got into some intense playoff situations. Now, but Jason, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. I think a healthy Knicks team beats them in 5. And I think a healthy Bucks team beats them in 6. The Bucks were a tough matchup the Pacers were a tough matchup for the Bucks, and they gave them a lot of issues. But I think if Giannis and Dame are 100% healthy in full go for a playoff series, I think the Bucks probably get the job done. So, like, yeah, they made the conference finals, but they were extremely fortunate in getting there. So the question is, how can the Pacers enter into that next tier of teams? How can they get into that tier? Because, like, starting on Monday, I'm covering teams that legitimately have a championship ceiling if things go right. I don't think this Pacers team does. So how do they get there? I think they need an upgrade at the 2 or the 3. Aaron Nesmith and Adrian Nembhard are 2 really solid basketball players. And I think they are definitely championship level rotation players. But ideally, they should be coming off the bench for you. You need more high-level closeout attacking out of those spots, and you need better contested rebounding. This was a team that did not rebound well in the postseason. If you can basically imagine Aaron Nesmith, but like a 6'8" version of him with a little bit more off the dribble pop. I think just that, if you did a substantial upgrade to one of those 2 spots, I think that goes a long way. Like, kind of like what the Knicks did. Bringing in Mikal Bridges as an upgrade at the 3 dramatically increases their ceiling. A player of that type of caliber at the 2 or the 3, I think, moves the Pacers into those discussions. And they have the means to make that type of deal. They have a young player that doesn't seem to fit their long-term vision in Ben Mathurin. They have draft picks to spend. They have lots of mid-level salaries that can be combined to get to a higher-level player. And then the last piece of it is just Tyrese solving that playoff puzzle. He was a little bit weird in this playoff run. A lot of high highs, but a lot of low lows. He had 7 games where he didn't even take 15 shots. He had 4 games where he didn't even take 10 shots. There was like a little bit of like he either has it or he doesn't on this particular night kind of thing. And that's just part of the puzzle of the playoffs. You get attacked on the defensive end a lot, and on offense, everything gets way harder. And you have to maintain that consistency throughout that 4-round setup. Now, to be clear, the Pacers to me feel like the next great Eastern Conference Titan. Remember how like Milwaukee, Miami, and Boston kind of ran the East over the previous half decade? I feel like the Pacers are going to be in that type of group for the future. But I feel like they're one more roster shakeup and a little bit more player development away from actually making that a reality. So for this season, I just have them as the best team that doesn't have a real chance to win the title this year at number 12.